The fluorescent lights of St. Mary's Hospital cast harsh shadows across the pristine white corridors. But today, these walls would witness something that would shatter careers, expose hidden truths, and reveal that sometimes the most powerful people in the room aren't who you think they are. What happened in room 237 on this seemingly ordinary Tuesday morning would become a lesson that one arrogant doctor would never forget. But first, he had to learn it the hard way. Dr. Marcus Whitfield adjusted his expensive watch as he strode through the hospital corridors. At 45, he was the head of cardiology at one of the city's most prestigious medical centers. His reputation preceded him: brilliant surgeon, published researcher, and unfortunately, someone who believed his status made him untouchable. The morning sun streamed through the hospital windows, but there was a storm brewing that no one could see coming. Nurse Sarah Williams had been working the early shift since 5 a.m. At 28, she was one of the most dedicated nurses on the floor, known for her gentle bedside manner and exceptional clinical skills. Her dark skin glistened with the faint sheen of exhaustion. She'd been pulling double shifts to support her younger brother's medical school tuition. Little did anyone know that room 237 held a patient whose identity would turn this entire story upside down. "Nurse Williams." Dr. Whitfield's voice cut through the morning calm like a blade. Sarah looked up from the medication chart she was reviewing, her heart already beginning to race. She recognized that tone. It was the same one he used whenever he wanted to assert his authority. "Yes, doctor?" she replied, maintaining her professional composure despite the knot forming in her stomach. "I need you to prep the patient in 237 for the cardiac consultation. And this time, try not to mess up the IV like you did last week." The words stung. Sarah had never messed up an IV. In fact, she was known for her exceptional technique. Other nurses often asked her to help when they struggled with difficult cases. But Dr. Whitfield seemed determined to undermine her at every opportunity. "Doctor, I believe there may be some confusion. I've never had any issues with." "Are you questioning my memory, Nurse Williams?" His voice rose slightly, drawing the attention of other staff members in the hallway. The discomfort was palpable as conversations quieted and heads turned. Something was building here, something that would change everything. As they entered room 237, Sarah's training kicked in. She moved efficiently around the bed, checking the patient's vitals and preparing the necessary equipment. The elderly man lying in the bed watched her with keen, intelligent eyes. There was something about him, a quiet dignity, an air of authority even in his hospital gown, that made Sarah wonder about his story. "Mr. Henderson, this is Dr. Whitfield," Sarah said gently to the patient. "He's here for your cardiac consultation." But Dr. Whitfield barely acknowledged the patient. Instead, he turned his attention to Sarah, his voice dripping with condescension. "Nurse Williams, these IV bags need to be changed. Can you handle that, or should I get someone more competent?" The room temperature seemed to drop. Sarah felt her cheeks burn with embarrassment, but she maintained her professionalism. She'd dealt with difficult doctors before, but never with such blatant disrespect in front of a patient. Mr. Henderson's expression hardened. His fingers gripped the bed rail slightly tighter. "Furthermore," Dr. Whitfield continued, clearly enjoying his display of power, "your uniform looks unprofessional. When was the last time you looked in a mirror?" The cruelty was unnecessary, devastating, and completely unprofessional. But Mr. Henderson was watching, listening, remembering every single word. "Dr. Whitfield." Sarah's voice trembled slightly, but she stood her ground. "I don't believe personal comments about my appearance are appropriate in a professional setting." "Oh, now you're telling me what's appropriate?" "Doctor." Whitfield's laugh was harsh, echoing off the sterile walls. "That's rich, coming from someone who probably only got this job because of diversity quotas." The words hung in the air like poison. Sarah felt as if she'd been slapped. The racist undertone wasn't just implied. It was blatant, cruel, and witnessed by everyone in the room. Other staff members in the hallway had stopped what they were doing. Some looked away in discomfort. Others stared in shock. But no one spoke up. No one intervened. Mr. Henderson's breathing became more labored, not from his heart condition, but from anger. "I've been a nurse for 6 years," Sarah said, her voice stronger now despite her obvious pain. "I graduated top of my class, I've saved lives, and I've never received a single complaint about my work." "Well, there's a first time for everything, Doctor," Whitfield sneered. maybe you should consider a career change. Something more suitable to your background. But no. The final insult. The moment that would seal his fate. Because Mr. Henderson had heard enough. Dr. Whitfield. The voice from the hospital bed was quiet, but it carried an authority that made everyone in the room freeze. Mr. Henderson slowly sat up, his movements deliberate and commanding despite his medical condition. I think you should know who you're talking to. Dr. Whitfield turned, annoyed at the interruption. Mr. Henderson, please lie back down. We're in the middle of— My name, the elderly man continued, his voice growing stronger, is Judge Robert Henderson. I've been sitting on the federal bench for 22 years. But more importantly, he paused, his eyes never leaving Dr. Whitfield's face, I'm also the chairman of the hospital's board of directors. The color drained from Dr. Whitfield's face. I've just witnessed one of the most appalling displays of racism, sexism, and professional misconduct I've ever seen in my life, and I've seen a lot. Sarah's hand flew to her mouth. She'd been caring for the chairman of the board, and he'd witnessed everything. Furthermore, Judge Henderson continued, reaching for his phone on the bedside table. I believe this conversation was important enough to record. He held up his smartphone, the recording app clearly visible on the screen. Dr. Whitfield's legs nearly gave out beneath him. Sir, there's been a misunderstanding. The only misunderstanding here, Judge Henderson's voice cut through his stammering, is your belief that your position gives you the right to humiliate and degrade exceptional people based on the color of their skin. Within an hour, Dr. Whitfield was sitting in the hospital administrator's office, facing a panel that included Judge Henderson, the hospital's chief of staff, and the head of human resources. The recording played on loop. Every cruel word, every racist comment, every moment of unprofessional conduct. Dr. Whitfield, the administrator said, his voice heavy with disappointment. In light of this evidence and Judge Henderson's testimony, we have no choice but to terminate your employment immediately. Your medical license will be reviewed by the state board, and you will not receive a recommendation from this institution. Meanwhile, Sarah sat in another office, surrounded by supportive colleagues and supervisors. Sarah, the chief nursing officer said gently, we owe you an apology. This should never have happened, and we're going to make sure it never happens again. Judge Henderson, despite his heart condition, had insisted on personally apologizing to Sarah. Young lady, he said, taking her hand in his weathered ones, you handled that situation with more grace and professionalism than I've seen in courtrooms full of lawyers. Don't let anyone ever make you question your worth again. Dr. Whitfield's fall from grace was swift and complete. The story made local news, and his behavior became a cautionary tale throughout the medical community. His prestigious career was over, destroyed by his own prejudice and arrogance. Sarah, meanwhile, found herself with opportunities she'd never imagined. Judge Henderson personally recommended her for a nursing leadership program, and several hospitals reached out with job offers that came with significant raises and advancement opportunities. But she chose to stay at St. Mary's. This is where the change needs to happen, she told her colleagues. I want to be part of making sure no nurse ever has to go through what I went through. 6 months later, Sarah was promoted to charge nurse, leading a team of nurses in the cardiac unit, the same unit where Dr. Whitfield had once reigned supreme. Judge Henderson made a full recovery from his heart condition and returned to the bench with renewed passion for justice. But he also became a regular volunteer at the hospital, mentoring young healthcare workers and ensuring that the culture of respect and dignity was maintained. This story isn't just about one racist doctor getting his comeuppance. It's about the hidden power structures that exist all around us, and how our actions toward others, especially those we perceive as having less power, reveal our true character. Dr. Whitfield's mistake wasn't just his racism and cruelty. It was his assumption that no one who mattered was watching. He believed that his status protected him from consequences, that he could humiliate a nurse without anyone powerful enough to stop him ever finding out. But power isn't always obvious. The patient lying quietly in a hospital bed might be the person who controls your future. The janitor mopping the floors might be someone's beloved parent. The nurse you're mistreating might be the most skilled person in the building. The most profound lesson from this story isn't about karma or justice, though both played their part. It's about the fundamental truth that every person deserves dignity and respect, regardless of their position, race, or status. Sarah Williams didn't deserve respect because a powerful judge was watching. She deserved respect because she was a human being doing her job with skill and dedication. The tragedy is that it took someone with Judge Henderson's authority to make that respect a reality. In healthcare, as in life, we're all interconnected. The nurse who starts your IV, the doctor who reviews your chart, the technician who takes your X-ray, each person plays a crucial role in healing. When we create hierarchies based on prejudice rather than competence, when we allow ego to override empathy, we don't just harm individuals, we harm the entire system. True professionalism means treating everyone with dignity. True leadership means protecting those who cannot protect themselves. And true wisdom means understanding that the measure of our character isn't how we treat those who can reward us, but how we treat those who seemingly cannot. Judge Henderson could have remained silent, focused only on his own medical care. Instead, he chose to use his power to protect someone who needed protection. That choice transformed a moment of cruelty into a catalyst for change. The next time you witness injustice, whether in a hospital, an office, or anywhere else, remember that you might be the only person in the room with the power to make a difference. Use it wisely. Use it justly. Use it with the understanding that every person's dignity is worth defending. Because sometimes, the most important surgery isn't performed with a scalpel. It's performed with courage, compassion, and the unwavering belief that everyone deserves to be treated as if they matter. Because they do.